Okay, so I wanted to explain a little bit about this photo. If you don't know who this is Haruka, who is an idol in Japan right now. You can see her perform, everything very rock idol. When she goes on stage, it's crazy how much she changes. But let's go ahead and look at some of the behind the scenes on this photo. Now, the first thing you might notice is that the light is coming from camera left over here, giving a little bit of light over here and filling out some light over here. Now, one of the important things I wanted to make sure happened was that the background itself was actually, lit, because if it wasn't lit, it'd be too dark and you wouldn't be able to see any of the detail back there. And thankfully, the walls in the studio had a little bit more detail in it and was able to add a little bit more interest, which actually matched nicely with this couch over here. Since we have two different textures going on, you're able to distinguish between the differences versus one being plain and the other one also being plain. And for a little bit more further deeper into this, with the photo book itself, which this photo is part of, we were able to have a little bit of a contrast between her own personal wardrobe and her performance wardrobe. Again, having that distinction of this is her when she performs and this is her naturally. And in this, we were able to get some props that were actually in the studio right here, which are these black roses, which I think really complemented well with what the background and the couch were going with. And a lot of accents on her actual wardrobe were having black accents and gold accents, so I feel like this really added to it. So to go a little bit into the lighting, as you can see, it is pretty close to the camera, so it's having a little bit more of a frontal effect, but I wanted to make sure that it still had a little bit over here of the shadow going on, so it's a little bit reminiscent of Rembrandt lighting, but it's a little bit different since it's so close to me over here and it's shining a little bit more frontal. Now, one of the reasons why I did this was because of the hat. The hat actually played into an important element with her wardrobe, so I wanted to make sure that her eyes were able to be lit up still, because if her eyes were dark, then you wouldn't be able to see the photo well or see her personality well either. So having the hat over here means that I can't raise the light too high, because then that would cast a shadow over her eye. And it also meant that I couldn't have the light on this side, which I generally prefer a little bit more of having the shadow side towards the face, or more of a short lighting versus right now where it's broad lighting. Again, you have to kind of get used to what the wardrobe or what the feel of the photo kind of calls for and then go based on that. Again, you have to have your fundamentals in order to know how to break them. Now, one thing you might notice is traditionally I go a little bit softer on my lighting, and on this one it was a little bit harsher. So with this, we're able to see a little bit more shadows down here and see this scathing shadow over here. Now, I actually really like this. Usually I'm like, go super soft. But in this case, I really like the shadow that it casted with the hat going across her face. There's other photos in the photo book where I think it looks really nice and there's a little bit more contrast to it, which really helps out in the moodiness to it. A lot of these photos are a little bit more moody. There's a couple bright ones in there too, so look out for those. But I think this photo right here really helps give a little bit more of her posing. You see her right here lifting up her chin a little bit and tilting her head a little bit towards me, which really helps emphasize the eye over here. And plus kind of gets the hat away from the shadow. And another important thing when taking this type of image is making sure that everything that needs to be sharp is sharp. So as we can see, we see details of her costume that are sharp, as well as her face, while everything else is a little bit more blurred out. I think this was shot probably at a 1.4, 1.8 around there. So it's a pretty shallow depth of field, which you can kind of see right here just from having her hands be like starting to blur out a little bit, and even the details from the chain coming down. This portion right here is in focus while this isn't. So I just wanted to go a little bit more behind the scenes on this image, as well as some behind the scenes on some of the other images that are on this photo book, which you guys should pick up if you want. A link down in the description below. Go ahead and support Haruka.